Prep TV. Today what we're going to be diving into is how to cultivate a healthy teacher-student relationship, something else that's going to enable you to put your best foot forward in the classroom. So you're definitely going to want to stay tuned for this video's content. If you do not know, my name is Mackenzie Warren. I'm the founder of Mac School Prep, and my mission is to do everything in my power, give you all the skills, all the tools, all the strategies, all the resources so that you can take advantage of your education. Before we go ahead and continue with this video's topic, I just want to encourage you now to give this video a thumbs up, subscribe to my channel if you haven't already, and also go ahead and hit that notification bell so that you don't miss a beat. And on that note, no more delay, it's time, let's get it. Okie dokie, so the first thing that we're going to go ahead and jump right into is why exactly is it so important that you have a good relationship with your teachers, especially in an academic setting like high school. The reason that I want to address this up front is because I'm the type of person that has to know the why behind what I'm learning. And if you're anything like me, I just want to make sure that I'm satiating that side of your intellectual curiosity. So let's start with the obvious. I mean, your grade is in your teacher's hands, so maybe you're not going to automatically get a 100 in the class if your teacher likes you, but you certainly won't have to experience the wrath of a grudge-holding teacher who wants to make life miserable for the students that he or she cannot stand. On that note, if your grade in the class starts to suffer, a teacher that you have in your corner is most certainly going to throw you a lifeline and try to help you figure out what exactly needs to take place so that you can get back on track instead of allowing you to sink. Reason number two that I have for why it's so important to have a good relationship with your teachers is that when you build rapport with teachers, you're more likely to be given the benefit of the doubt in certain situations in which your character is being called into question. Reason number three I have for you is when you have a good relationship with your teachers, there's a higher probability that you'll receive some type of award or special recognition that you can later include on your resume whenever you're applying to colleges. And this is a really good thing because having those awards, having those recognitions is something that's going to differentiate you from the other students in the application pool. Now, reason number four, speaking of college, whenever you're going through the college application process, having a good relationship with your teachers is going to make life so much easier for you down the road when you're trying to figure out who to ask to write a letter of recommendation for you, because the bottom line is you're going to have so many different options to choose from. And in this type of situation, it's certainly better to feel like you have too many choices than to feel like you're having to rack your brain for just one single teacher to ask about the letter of rec. Alrighty, transitioning to our next segment of this video, I want to now discuss what is the key to having a good relationship with your teachers. Pro tip number one I have for you is don't try too hard to force a connection, meaning don't force a square peg into a round hole. In other words, allow the relationship between you and your teacher to occur naturally, which means that being a teacher's pet and showering your teachers with flashy and expensive gifts isn't going to elevate you in their eyes. If anything, those actions are going to cause the relationship between you and your teacher to backtrack. Reason for this is because when you're going above and beyond and over the top to be this perfect model student, teachers are very perceptive of fake and insincere behavior, which is obviously going to be a major turnoff for them like it would be for anyone else. Pro tip number two is work with your teacher, not against them. And how can you go about doing that, you might ask? Well, it starts with not being tardy to class, not complaining or making excuses, and also not being a smart aleck who talks back or is disrespectful to others. Pro tip number three I have for you is be alert and engaged at all times during class. So this means instead of being a chatterbox with your neighbor right next to you, you should really be focused on asking your teacher questions that deepen your understanding of the topic at hand, and also focus on making valuable contributions that liven classroom dialogue and discussions. Pro tip number four I have for you is make good use of your planner, which, if you do not remember, is the very first step of PADSA. And if you need a refresher on that topic, make sure you go and check out my series all about the PADSA process. But what this is going to enable you to do is make sure that you're staying on top of your work, and it also allows you to demonstrate how serious you are about getting your work done, hitting your books, and also being successful in school and in the classroom. Another thing that goes hand in hand with using your planner is come to class prepared, meaning when you walk into class, you should have all the necessary school supplies for the subject at hand, And you should also be very timely about turning in your assignments, meaning it's unacceptable to step foot into a classroom and have incomplete homework or an incomplete project. Now, if for some valid reason, like you're under the weather or God forbid there's a death in your family and you need an extension on an assignment, you need to notify your teacher immediately, like at least 24 to 48 hours in advance. That way, they can hopefully work with you to figure out a game plan and they can anticipate your late submission of an assignment and they're not just caught off guard when they notice that you blatantly have not turned in something that they asked of you. On a similar note, and this is still an extension of this pro tip number 4, whenever you know you're going to be absent, maybe for like an appointment or something of the like, you need to communicate that information with your teacher so you can figure out exactly what you're going to miss and also so that you can get any work for the class ahead of time. I'm telling you, you should not, I repeat, should not expect your teacher to take on the burden of hunting you down whenever you're absent in an effort to fill you in on whatever it is that you missed in class. Alrighty, moving on to pro tip number 5. If you have a burning question about something that you're learning in class, or you didn't perform to the best of your ability on an assignment, don't exude dismissive behavior and most definitely do not be afraid to reach out for help. Remember, we've talked about this in a previous video. It's never ever a bad thing to reach out for help and to ask questions. What you need to be doing is showing your teacher that you care about your comprehension and that you want to improve academically by scheduling a time to meet with them that works for both of you guys' schedules. But side note here, if you decide to email or message your teacher instead of actually talking to them in person about getting a meeting date on the calendar, I want you to be considerate and avoid contacting them super duper late at night because let's face it, after business hours are long over, your email is probably going to be the last thing on your teacher's mind. By the way, I don't know if you caught this, but the reason that I said schedule a meeting with your teacher is so that they can actually be expecting you. And if you don't follow this rule of thumb, what's going to end up happening is you're probably going to barge into your teacher's room when they're having a personal moment, when they're busy grading papers, or when they're trying to have a private discussion with another student or another faculty member. Moving on to pro tip number 6, always have a positive attitude, even if you don't particularly like learning about the subject at hand. You applying yourself and being a dedicated student who respects your teacher and makes their class a priority will ultimately reveal to your teacher that you always want to put your best foot forward and that you sincerely want to be successful in their class and in school more generally. Besides, teachers enjoy sharing their knowledge with students who demonstrate an interest in their class. And reason for this is because your teacher, whether you know it or not, is passionate about whatever it is that they're teaching. And it makes anyone feel good to know that others are receptive to their passions. Now touching on pro tip number 7, I want you to understand that your teacher is an actual person. You know, like a human being with real flesh, real blood, real emotions, real feelings. I mean, contrary to popular thought among students, teachers don't just eat, sleep, breathe, school, in their job. Instead of spending the night at the school like robots, teachers go home to their significant others, to their kids, to their pets, to their families. With that said, teachers deserve to be treated as people. They shouldn't be forced to endure these transactional business relationships with their students. So with this pro tip in mind, my advice to you is that you acknowledge your teacher whenever you walk into the classroom with a sweet greeting, with a hello, with a hand wave, with a nod, something. Also, find out what makes your teacher tick, what motivates them by actually being sincerely interested in their lives outside of this schoolwork environment. Another thing is, since we now know that teachers do have lives outside of school, like obligations to their family, for example, it's inappropriate to constantly hound them about putting in grades and updating the grade book. What you have to learn to do is to give your teacher time and space to accomplish what they know needs to be done at the end of the day. And last but not least, our pro tip number 8, which is going to be our final pro tip for this segment of the video, is don't hesitate to be open and transparent with your teachers about your life outside of being a student. Meaning, for one, I encourage you to talk to them about your extracurriculars, the activities and the community service you're engaged in, maybe even your job. Consequently, this will lead to the growth of a deeper bond and connection with your teachers and might even lead to your teachers helping you identify different internship opportunities as well as expand your support network. This will also open the door to your teachers offering you their advice, their expertise, their recommendations on things that extend beyond the realm of homework and academics, because whether you know it or not, your teachers really truly are these fountains of knowledge and experience that can help you grow as a person and elevate yourself to the next level. Alrighty, with pro tip number 8 out of the way, I want to finally transition to our last segment of this video, all about the steps and the actions you should take whenever you and your teacher just can't get on the same page, just don't seem to be getting along for some reason. So my step 1 when you and your teacher just seem to be going at each other like this is try to pin down the cause of the rocky relationship between you and your teacher. So maybe it's because you can't seem to connect with the course material because it's either boring, difficult, or seems irrelevant to your future plans. Or maybe you and your teacher are simply having a personality clash. And look, I get it. It's perfectly normal to not get along superbly with everyone you come into contact with. However, the important thing is that once you figure out the reason that you and your teacher aren't on the same wavelength, then you can begin to take steps to rectify the situation and make changes on your end specifically. For example, if you find yourself feeling like a class is a burden, try focusing on changing your thought process so that you can view the class in a new, more appealing light. And so it might help you to identify the value of the class, or to think about the class as a prerequisite to achieving your bigger dreams and your bigger aspirations. Same goes for if you feel like a class is boring or difficult. It might help you to vent or talk to someone that you're close to about how to view the class in a different way. Something else I have for you is when you feel like you and your teacher's personalities just aren't meshing, my best piece of advice for you is wisely pick your battles whenever you and your teacher are butting heads and you just can't seem to find common ground. But more importantly, kill your teachers with kindness. You know the song, kill them with kindness. The reason I'm saying this is because kindness always proves victorious. Kindness always trumps negative energy. Moving on to step number 2 that I have for you when it's proving very difficult to get along with your teacher is place a premium on communication. That means that if you really cannot seem to figure out the source of your teacher's frustration, go to them, politely seek clarification regarding the situation so that you can have the opportunity to put yourself in their shoes and actually see things from their perspective. During these heart-to-heart conversations, you also shouldn't be hesitating to express how you're feeling. That way, hopefully you and your teacher can arrive at some sort of consensus as to how to proceed. Another token of advice I have for you as an extension of step number 2 is never be so prideful that you cannot admit when you're wrong. I'm telling you, an apology always goes a long way, especially with authority figures. Finally, my step number 3 that we're going to be using to wrap up this video is understand that everyone has good days and bad days. I mean, returning back to this idea of how teachers are humans just like you and just like me, sometimes we just need to cut them a little bit of slack and give them a break, because as revealed by one of my favorite quotes of all time from To Kill a Mockingbird, you never really understand a person until you consider things from his point of view, until you climb into his skin and walk around in it. In other words, you have no idea what could possibly be going on in your teacher's life outside of school that's consequently placing a strain on your relationship with them. For example, they might be struggling with a lot of personal problems like a family crisis, financial stress, health complications, etc., etc. You get the point. But all those things could be contributing to their irritability and their crankiness at school and with you. Now, on that note, our video all about how to cultivate a healthy teacher-student relationship has officially come to an end. But what I want to leave you with, this final takeaway lesson, is that it's truly up to you to implement and put into practice all the strategies, all the pro tips that we discussed in today's video so that you can make sure that you're on the right track to having a great relationship with your current teachers, or so that you can start taking steps, start taking action to change the trajectory of a relationship with a teacher that you might have gotten off on the wrong foot with. And on that note, I just want to encourage you once more to give this video a thumbs up if you did not do it at the beginning, subscribe to my channel if you haven't already, and also hit that notification bell so that you can stay in the loop with anything and everything that I have to offer through Max School Prep. And I will be sure to see you very soon. Alrighty, bye!